The motto for the Orlando Magic has always been a simple one. Win the paint, win the game. And the Magic did that to defeat the Minnesota Timberwolves today on Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is March 7th. It will be March 8th, 2026. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Credentialed member of the Orlando Magic media since the 2012 season. Coming to you today from the Target Center. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, the Orlando Magic hold to one of their biggest truths. Win the paint, win the game. That's what delivered the Magic a humongous win over the Minnesota Timberwolves and made them look like the team we all thought they could be. We'll talk about that mentality coming up here in just a moment. First, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day, no matter when you listen to us, whether it's first in the morning, whether it's right when you upload. We truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. You can make Locked On Magic even bigger part of your day by being one of our Orlando Magic dailies, our everydayers who listen 5 days a week, who listen on weekends like today, who make us part of your everyday podcast rotation, who make us your first listen of the day. We want to thank you for helping make the Locked On Magic community such a great and growing community, and we want to thank you for helping make the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. I will apologize first. There could be some distracting noise in the background. They got youth basketball going on here on the court, but I'm here in Minneapolis. I made the effort to come up to Minneapolis and to see this huge game for the Orlando Magic, because we'll get to it here in a minute about why this win was so important. But everything for the Magic starts with one thing. If you've listened to the show long enough, you will hear me say it repeatedly. Win the paint, win the game. It's not incredibly complicated. It's not everything. Look, the Magic have lost plenty of games this year when they were the better team in the paint. But it still matters so much because it's a mentality. It's an attack mentality. It's an aggressive mentality. It's a physical mentality. Orlando ended up winning this game 60-38 in the paint. 60-38. That tells you two things. It tells you, A, they were attacking 30 for 49 in the paint, despite Rudy Gobert's presence. He had two steals, and one block in this game. That tells you they were attacking downhill constantly. They got 31 free throw attempts, 26 for 31 from the foul line. It tells you that they are being physical on defense. They are hitting guys. They're keeping them from getting to the rim. They're making and contesting every shot or limiting those shots altogether. Minnesota got to the line 31 times too. The Magic were physical. They fouled a lot. But 19 for 36 in the paint for Minnesota. 9 for 40 from three. Anytime you are giving up more three-point attempts than paint attempts, that's typically a good thing. That's typically a game that you are going to win. And so for the Magic, it was all about their ability to control the paint. And again, it's less about the points that you score there. It's always been that. It's about the attention that getting into the paint causes. It collapses the defense. It lets you, yes, get some layups and make some shots around the basket. That's how you get your good spray out threes. When the Magic struggle, it's because they're stagnant. They're slow. They're on the perimeter. They're not getting downhill. And from the very start of this game, even though the Magic were extremely sloppy at the start of the game, from the very start of the game, the Magic were aggressive. Paolo Banchero had, I think, 15 points in the first quarter, or he had 12 points in the first quarter, something like that. All of it coming in the paint. 10 for 18 in the paint. He was 9 for 13 on 2-point field goals. You could do the math on that later. He had 15 rebounds. 5 turnovers. Well, turnovers are still an issue, but a solid 25-point performance from Paolo. That set the tone for the game. Because then came Desmond Bane. Then came Desmond Bane with his mindset of getting downhill. Teams want to chase him off the line. Teams don't want him bombing threes or hitting a bunch of threes. Sorry for saying that. Teams don't want him throwing threes or throwing prayers up at the rim. If they could get him downhill, like gives them a little bit of a better chance, but not much. Because Bane, for the second time, had a 30-point game without making a three. And so you take that, 10 for 10 from the line, 10 for 17 from the floor, getting to the rim, finishing around players. The Magic doing a good job pushing Gobert away from the basket, forcing him to guard someone on the perimeter that he at least nominally had to respect, or made him take that extra step that he had to take, that extra half second to get to the rim so he couldn't defend at the rim as effectively. The Magic did all the things that you're supposed to do to kind of rip this Timberwolves defense apart. And they stayed determined throughout the course of the game. Even if the threes weren't falling, they didn't stop attacking. These are all things the Magic have struggled with this year. Orlando's 20th in the league this year in points in the paint per game after being, I think, 3rd or 4th last year. And points allowed in the paint per game, after being 3rd or 4th last year. They were a heavy paint scoring team last season as well, and that too has dropped off a little bit. The Magic's ability and willingness to get downhill, that's a mindset. That's an aggressive mindset. That is a confident mindset. That is an understanding of the defense is chasing us off the line. We're cool with that. We're going to take it. Oh, they're going to hit us. They're going to knock us to the ground because we're going to the paint. We're going to take it. We're going to get downhill. We're going to get to the rim and to the basket. This is the aggressive mindset that the Magic haven't always had this year. It's been a struggle to draw that out. It's been a struggle to be that version of this team. And look, they've done it in stretches. They've done it in spurts. And right now they're in a good spurt where they're aggressive and they're getting downhill. They're not as stagnant. There's still plenty of moments of stagnation and plenty of moments where just like, oh, this is why the Magic are where they are. They're up 20. They gave up a 9-0 run. It looked like Minnesota might get back in the game in that third quarter. And then Orlando was able to kind of get their footing back under them, get downhill, and make things happen. That is Magic basketball. That is who the Magic want to be. And that is the reason why they were able to win this game. We all know it. Like, Paolo Banchero is a matchup nightmare. When he is getting downhill, when he sees the basket in his sights, and he's able to kind of get to his spots, he is impossible to stop. Julius Randle wasn't stopping him. If he got a switch, no one else was stopping him. And then you add on top that he had 15 rebounds. Like, this is what the Magic have to be. They have to own the painted area. It's this beautiful purple court. They have to own the paint if they're going to be the team they want to be. And that's what they did Saturday afternoon. Is that why they won by 27? I mean, the combination of them dominating defensively and limiting those shots at the paint and being able to get to the basket and to the rim themselves, like, yeah, that's a big piece of this puzzle. If I look at the game charts here, the Magic shot 24-32 in the restricted area. That's 10 more shots and 8 more makes than Minnesota got. And so even though Orlando couldn't hit a three to save their lives tonight, it didn't matter because they were getting to the foul line, they were getting to the basket, and they were finishing at the rim. That's who the Magic have to be. And that's why they scored such a huge win. But we need to talk about why this win is so big. We need to talk about what this win represents. So we'll talk about, not counteracting the size, change my mind after I did the rundown. We will talk about the significance and importance of this win and the mindset the Magic have right now. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. College basketball is nonstop. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night. From early tip-offs to late-night West Coast shootouts, there is always action on the board. And now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. I'm getting ready to go to my first college, not my first college basketball game, but I'm getting ready to go to a college basketball game right after I'm done recording this. I'm heading over to the barn to see my Northwestern Wildcats. Hopefully one team in purple wins today. And if you're getting ready for the tournament, if you're getting ready to see your team, with FanDuel, you can make spreads, totals, and player props to match how you see the whole slate playing out and apply that profit boost to instantly bump up the potential payout. Go safe, go bold, ride with the team you've been following all season, and go Cats. It's your parlay, your style, now with more upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. We want to thank you for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. We want to thank you for helping make the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. If you want to take your Locked On fandom to the next level, check out the Everydayer Club. With the Everydayer Club, you get access to an ad-free audio feed of this show, plus access to our Locked On Discord server. On the Discord server, on the Locked On Magic Discord server, I am giving you 3 thoughts that are non-public. I do not post them anywhere else. They go right onto the Discord server after every quarter, plus plenty more. We're a growing community. Be part of the conversation. Check it out today at lockedonmagic.supercast.com. That's lockedonmagic.supercast.com. So, as I was getting off my flight yesterday, getting here to Minneapolis, the Miami Heat were just wrapping up their win over the Charlotte Hornets. And, trying to head people off at the pass, we're going to panic about this. That win did mean that the Magic would temporarily fall to 8th in the Eastern Conference standings. Now, I would remind everyone, and I've been trying to remind everyone, that the Magic have played the fewest games of any team in the league so far. They're going to catch up eventually, but they're not catching up yet. And so the Magic, have one fewer loss, and that's the number that matters, is losses. You can always win more games, but you can't get losses back. And so when you look at the standings, like Charlotte and Atlanta, Atlanta has one fewer win than Orlando. Charlotte, I think, now has 2 fewer wins than Orlando. They're well behind in the loss column. They're like 3-4 games back in the loss column. Orlando's tied in the loss column with Philadelphia, and the Sixers are going to be playing the Hawks as I'm recording this. So I don't know the result of that game. The standings are going to jumble every single night. Every result is going to feel big. And so you still got to look a little bit at the long term. And that's why this win is so important. That's why this game matters. Because for the Magic to catch Philadelphia, now technically tied with the Sixers. They are tied with the Sixers. I think they have the same number of games now. Again, Philadelphia playing Atlanta as we speak. To catch the Raptors, now only a game ahead of Orlando as we're recording this. They're going to need to steal games from teams like Minnesota. Team like Minnesota that's third in the West, on a 5-game win streak, on the road. They're going to have to win more games like this and play well like this if they're going to surprise everyone in the final 20 games and catch Toronto or catch Philadelphia or hold off Miami. And that's the important thing to remember. Now, the Magic, to their credit, have been saying this for a while, and they're playing well. They've won now 9 of their last 13 games. They're playing well. They're 6-4 since the All-Star break. Don't quote me on that. That sounds right. I don't know if I'm right on that. They might be 6-3 since the All-Star break. They'll be 6-4 after tomorrow. We'll see. The Magic, to their credit, have had the mentality of one game at a time. And, that's cliche. Yes, it is cliche for everyone to say one game at a time. It is cliche to say, one game isn't bigger. They're all equally big. And they all are equally big, except for the game at Charlotte, except for the game tomorrow night in Milwaukee, except for the game at Atlanta, except for the game at Miami. And then again, the game in Orlando against Atlanta in April. Those games are a little bigger. Those are tiebreaker games. Those are direct opponent games. You want to end Milwaukee's thoughts of getting to the 6th seed, you do that tomorrow night. The Magic have been focused on this one game approach. But really, that's not the cliche we need to use. The cliche we need to use is another one the Magic have started to use a whole lot more often. And that is to say, we're not hitting home runs anymore. We're not trying to hit home runs. We're just trying to hit singles. Get enough singles, you're going to get everybody around. And big innings aren't built on home runs. Those clear the bases. Big innings are built on you hit a single. Double gets them to third. Single brings them home. Brings the other guy to second. Another double brings 2 home. You build it with simple little plays. And maybe the Magic's problem over the last 2 months, 3 months, however long it's been now, has been they've been trying to get it all back at once. Like, you still see those plays. There's a play where, Paolo Banchero got a rebound, kicked it out to Jalen Suggs, got out in transition, and he shoots a pull-up three, misses, and Minnesota comes out and scores again. Like, that's not the kind of play the Magic need. That's not the kind of play the Magic want. But it's going to take doing the simple. And that's a concept that Jamal Mosley has talked about over the course of this season of don't get bored with the simple. Don't get bored doing the thing you're supposed to do. Simplicity is how you win. When you try to do too much, when you try to do the crazy home run play, that's when you make mistakes. That's when you make turnovers. And this game was all about turnovers. This game was all about, are the Magic going to make the mistakes or are the Wolves going to make the mistakes? The whole first half, really the whole first quarter and a half, was just like the Magic are really sloppy turning the ball over. Minnesota is kind of sloppy back at them. They're not making a ton of shots. Orlando's just hanging around. Whichever team stops making mistakes was the one that was going to win. The Magic were the ones that tightened up and stopped making mistakes. And that's why they pulled ahead. That's why they built some distance. That's why they let them back in when they started making mistakes again. And that's why they put the hammer down, as they stopped doing that. It is a profound thing, especially for a young team. But it is a profound thing to say, don't be bored doing the easy thing. Don't be bored doing the simple thing. Don't be bored because something's monotonous and repetitive. You don't need to try that crazy step back move if your post up duck in is working. That's frankly what the great players do. Like, yeah, they see a lot of exotic defenses that they got to figure out. And sometimes that does take something creative. And you got to be able to make the creative play still. But it's about those simple mentalities, those simple designs, those simple plays. And that's what the Magic are doing better at right now. That's why the Magic have won 9 of their last 13, have seemingly turned things around, have picked up some steam, and are gaining ground on the teams in front of them as much as they're putting some distance on the teams behind them. They are starting to come into their own. They are starting to figure it out. Now, the question, of course, is, can they keep it up? They didn't really do it against Dallas. Like, they had this great 40 seconds against Dallas to steal that game. But they didn't do it against Dallas. They didn't even really do it against Washington until the second half. It's about doing it over and over and over again. And look, it's easy to get up for Minnesota. Excuse me. It's easy to get up for Minnesota. Two-time straight Western Conference finalist, 3rd seed in the West, afternoon game on Amazon Prime. It's easy to see this opponent and say, we are ready to play this team. And we are locked in to play this team. Can you do it on the second night of a back-to-back against a struggling Milwaukee team? Can you win that season series? Can you put them away? Can you do the same thing when maybe the competition isn't as difficult? Can you have that same focus? That is the question now for this Magic team. Because look, this week is going to be tough. You play Milwaukee, then you play Cleveland at home on Wednesday. You play Washington again on Thursday. So you're going to make up some of these games in hand that you have on the other teams, like starting this week. And then you go to Miami and to Atlanta, 2 humongously critical games in the standings. Again, you want to put some distance between them. Best way to do it is to do it directly. And the way you handle the intensity and the pressure of this moment and the intensity and pressure that you're inevitably going to feel in these games is you embrace the simple. You embrace hitting singles and understand that you hit enough singles, you score a lot of runs, if you're going to do a strained baseball metaphor. That's what the Magic did Saturday. That's what they did so effectively. We'll talk about how the Magic hit singles and who hit the most singles coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to my friends over at 5 Hour Energy. Welcome to the 5 Hour Energy Flavor Draft with 18 different flavors to choose from, including new options like Confetti Craze, fruity rainbow, or cotton candy. There is truly something for everyone. So the board is set, the flavors are ready, and I've got my number one pick for the 5-hour energy flavor draft, because when I go for one of these energy drinks, when I go for these protein drinks or whatever you want to call them, I like something a little sweet. I like something that's kind of light and airy. And that's why I go with Confetti Craze. It's a delicious blend of rich and buttery, freshly baked confetti cake, smooth vanilla frosting, and a sprinkle of sweetness in every sip. You get that sweet birthday cake inspired flavor, and who doesn't love birthday cake? The smooth dessert-like taste profile gives you this rich, indulgent sweetness from start to finish. So get 5-hour energy, because 5-hour energy shots give you a boost with zero sugar. And they have a lot of fun flavors coming up, so stay tuned and look out for the best of 5-hour energy. So find your new favorite flavor of 5-hour energy shots, available online at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. Again, find your new favorite flavor of 5-hour energy shots, available online at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is also brought to you by our friends over at Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure is on and you need the right hire, this is a job for Sponsor Jobs. Indeed Sponsor Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute that I'll be talking to you in this ad read, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Spend less time searching, more time actually interviewing candidates, because it's less stress, less time, and more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of the show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this show. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Let's go through the final box score as the Orlando Magic defeat the Minnesota Timberwolves 119-92. Again, if you look at this box score, this is a typical, like, hard-nosed, exactly what you want the Orlando Magic to be. Sure, 9 for 34 three-point shooting is great. Sure, Desmond Bane was 0 for 5 from 3. Paolo Banchero was 1 for 5 from 3. Jalen Suggs was 3 for 8. There were a lot of missed three-pointers in this game, and we'll talk about Anthony Black's injury here in a minute. There were a lot of injuries, or there were a lot of missed threes, but what's changed now, and what wasn't the case maybe earlier in the season or repeatedly throughout the season, is the Magic aren't letting that affect them, and especially their defensive effort. Look, Anthony Edwards had a crazy first quarter. The Magic were scrambling to stay in the game because they couldn't keep up, and they were making mistakes turning the ball over, but they really buckled down. They had a 33-20 second quarter. A lot of it with Anthony Edwards on the bench, a lot of it with Rudy Gobert on the bench, but they're able to keep that up. They were able to kind of keep that intensity up despite all the struggles and all the frustrations they're having. And it started with not making any mistakes. They had, I think, 0 or 1 turnover in the second quarter. It started with not making mistakes. And then it continued and built with the team's ability to get downhill and get to the paint. This is Orlando Magic basketball. This is what they are supposed to be. And so obviously, like, it starts with Desmond Bane. 30 points, 10 for 17 shooting, 0 for 5 from 3, 10 for 10 from the foul line. This is his second 30-point game without a three-point make, which is, especially for a guard, really hard to do. It's not something you see in this league. And, you know, I noted this during the game, just like, we all expected Desmond Bane to be this excellent shooter. And entering today, he's up to 39% from 3. Not quite the percentage we hoped it would be, but considering where he was at, like, incredible. He'll be our third quarter MVP, which we'll talk about later in the week. But to see him get to the line, to see him put pressure on the defense, to be able to manipulate space and manipulate his gravity off the dribble, that is something I did not expect from him. And again, it's why it feels like Desmond Bane has been such a perfect fit. He's been a perfect culture fit too. Like, this is a guy, like, look, he wasn't celebrating that locker room after the game. Like, he's very much like, hey, we just got to keep building. We got to keep doing the things. We're doing the right things. Like, he's been a great leader for this team. He's been a great addition for this team. Like, honestly, like, there's a lot to say about how the Magic are built and things that they did wrong. They did not do Desmond Bane wrong. He has been excellent, and this was another excellent showing for him. It's another really good showing for Paolo Banchero, too. And I don't think he'll get quite the same amount of love. A solid 25 points, 10 for 18 shooting, only 1 for 5 for 3. He did have 5 turnovers. Like, he had maybe like 2 or 3 minute stretches throughout the game where, like, holding the ball too much at the top of the key, turning the ball over dribbling, like, all the things that need to be cut out of his game. Like, again, the biggest thing Paolo has to work on this summer is being more precise and economical with his dribbling and his movements. You know, like, he likes Jason Tatum a lot, works out with Jason Tatum a little bit. You watch a Jason Tatum, maybe not Friday night, but Jason Tatum, when he's at his best, he does not waste movement. He does not waste motion. Everything is precise and planned, and every dribble has a purpose. And that's where Paolo, look, and that's a young player thing. Young players have to learn to do that. It's not, I'm not sitting here saying, like, why doesn't he do this now? It's something he needs to keep getting better at. Because when he does that, when he moves quickly, when he makes decisive choices, he is unstoppable. And Minnesota, like, switched on him a little bit. He got some mismatches. The Magic picked on those mismatches. He played this excellent, excellent game. And again, working a lot in the paint, working a lot around the basket. Let me get his paint numbers here real fast. Let me pull that up. He shot 9 of 10 in the restricted area. 9 of 10. 9 of his 10 field goal makes were at the rim. Like, that's what you want to see from Paolo. And again, that's the mentality of, we are going to get to the basket. We are going to get to the hoop. We're going to get to the rim. We're going to get to the foul line. He only had 4 free throws, probably deserved a few more. More than that, and this deserves its own episode and its own analysis, Paolo Banchero putting up 15 rebounds. Look, Wendell Carter did a lot of that work too. Wendell only had 6 rebounds, but he's boxing out Rudy Gobert. Did a good job kind of keeping Gobert out of the paint and away from the basket and making him a non-factor on some putbacks. Like, Gobert still had some moments. He had 12 points, 8 rebounds. But Carter did a great job, and the Magic did a really good job rebounding as a team. Paolo especially. He had some really tough rebounds in this game. And look, Paolo is averaging a career high in rebounds this year. He's doing a lot of really, really good things to put himself and this team in that position to win. So it's been a really, really strong game for Paolo. Another really strong game for Paolo. Again, there are these 2-3 minute stretches where it's like, okay, you got to move the ball, be a little quicker and decisive. But those are becoming fewer and fewer. Like, he is playing all-star level basketball right now. He is playing the level of basketball we want to see from Paolo more often than not. Not all the time. And that is still something to struggle with. I mentioned Wendell Carter. 10.6 rebounds. 4 for 5 from 4. Did not take a 3. He's been passing on 3s lately. He hit one the other night. Is like his fourth 3 since February 1st. He's like 4 for 26 from 3. So I don't mind him passing up 3s right now. But he did a really, really good job of just being this presence defensively and being this guy who is just a wall at the rim. And so, like, look, he wasn't getting all the rebounds. Like, he was boxing out Randall. He was boxing out Gobert. He was keeping Naz Reid off the glass. He was keeping guys away from rebounds so the Magic could clean them up. And that stuff doesn't go in a box score. Like, Wendell Carter is one of the best box out players in the league. You can look up that site on NBA.com. I believe he is in the top 10 in box outs per game. And tonight was a heavy box out game for him. He was boxing out a lot of guys. So he may not get the rebound, but he is leading to it. And you can just feel his positive impact in the game. A really, really nice game from Wendell Carter. Jalen Suggs was solid. 14 points, 5 for 13 shooting, 3 for 8 from 3. Even before Anthony Black left, and I'll talk about AB here in a minute, Jalen Suggs got the call on Anthony Edwards, first time in a while that he has defended the best player on the other team directly. So that's certainly a good sign that Jalen's starting to feel a little bit healthier. Shots still taking some time to come in. Decision-making still taking some time to come in. But Jalen had a really nice game, really active defensively. I really liked a lot of the things that he did. Brought good energy. Again, didn't take too many shots. Like, again, his shot selections can be a little rough at times. But would love to see him get downhill and get to the basket more too. Tristan da Silva came off the bench, scored 11 points, 5 for 11 shooting, 1 for 4 from 3. He had 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals. Really nice game from Tristan da Silva. Stepped up. Like, da Silva's playing really, really well. Really since the All-Star break. The shoulder issue doesn't appear to be an issue anymore. He's starting to make threes more consistently. Didn't tonight. He's starting to make threes more consistently, and that's helped him. And look, the bench did a really good job. They didn't score a ton of points. De Silva had 11. Javon Carter had 6 on 2 for 5 shooting. Jet Howard had 9. Mo Wagner was 1 for 6 for his 7 points. But the Magic's bench generally held the ship steady, did a good job staying aggressive. Again, maybe not the scoring you want, but I thought they played really, really, really well. Orlando shoots 46.2% from 4, 9 for 34 for 3, 26 to 31 from line, 15 offensive rebounds for 16 second chance points. Minnesota had only 8 for 7 second chance points. 50 turnovers for 19 points was the only issue in this game. Orlando turned the ball over too much. Got to control that going into Milwaukee and especially going against Cleveland. They only forced 12 turnovers for 14 points. But Minnesota shoots just 35.7% from the floor. They do not score 30 points in any quarter outside of the first. They only had 20 in the second, 14 in the fourth as Orlando put the hammer down. Minnesota shot only 9 of 40 from 3. So the Magic did a good job with their three-point defense. Minnesota missed shots, Orlando missed shots. Fouling was a bit of an issue, but Magic were physical, and I like that. Let's close the show then with the other piece of the news. Anthony Black left the game very, very early, about 2 minutes into the game. Jamal Mosley said after the game that he got hit in the back going up for a shot, tweaked something in his back. He was officially diagnosed with a low back strain. We'll see. I don't think he'll play Sunday, but we'll see what his availability and what the diagnosis is Sunday. But he left the game very, very early. Credit to the Magic. They looked a little shell-shocked immediately after that. They're up 4-2 at the time. They looked a little shell-shocked after that, but they found themselves. They got themselves back together and played a really gritty game. Like, again, this game is very much how the Orlando Magic want to play basketball. This is very much who they want to be. And so a really, really nice, really, really fun game from Orlando. To get a 27-point win. Like, what can you complain when you win by 27? It's just clinical work. You did your job on both ends. Right mentality, right mindset, and a huge win because these are the wins you need. If, by the time you're listening to this, the Sixers could lose to the Hawks and the Magic will be 6th in the East. Again, that's how quickly things are going to change on a nightly basis. And again, you beat Milwaukee. That's one of your games at hand on Philadelphia. You beat Milwaukee, and now you've got the game that you need over the Sixers, because the Sixers won the tiebreaker. So huge, huge win today for the Magic. This is kind of one of the ones you had to steal. Had to steal a few somewhere. They stole one tonight. Big, big victory for Orlando. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. I want to thank you. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all of the places you download podcasts to your podcast-enabled listen device. You can find us on YouTube as well. Just search for Locked On Magic. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find us there on Twitter at OMagicDaily. And for even more Orlando Magic content, be sure to check out my Patreon page at patreon.com/OrlandoMagicClub. I'll be back on Monday to recap my trip over the weekend. You can also check out our Everydayer Club, get access to the ad-free audio feed of the show, plus access to the Locked On Discord server. You can find that at lockedonmagic.supercast.com. That's lockedonmagic.supercast.com. As always, thank you for your support. Now that you're done listening to us, if you're on video, we're going to send you over to the first ever 24/7 National NBA YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make your second listen NBA game night on Locked On NBA, where I'm sure they will be talking about this huge win, and we'll hear some positive thoughts on the Magic. Maybe guys, nudge, nudge, nudge. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. We'll be back tomorrow to break down the Magic's game against the Milwaukee Bucks from Fiserv Forum, but from Target Center here in Minneapolis. Good to be back home. I worked for the Wolves for a summer. Good to be back in the building. I got my Lynx banners up above me. For Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.